As parents, we often have gut feelings when something just isn't right. This can be especially true in co-parenting arrangements where one parent is struggling with addiction. If you're co-parenting with an ex-spouse who abuses alcohol, SoberLink can help. SoberLink's alcohol monitoring system is the most convenient, reliable, and reasonable way for a parent to provide evidence that they are not drinking during parenting time. The system's real-time alerts, facial recognition, and tamper detection ensure the integrity of each test, so you can be confident your kids are with a sober parent. With SoberLink, judges can rest assured that your child is safe, attorneys get court admissible evidence of sobriety, and your kids are able to maintain healthy relationships with both parents. To sign up, we have a special offer for Her Empowered Divorce listeners to get $50 off your device. Visit www.soberlink.com/empowered. Hi, beautiful. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I have a very interesting topic that I think you will find fun but informative. And that is, let's talk about divorce impacting the workplace and divorce impacting women in the workplace. Kind of a different topic, but very, very important. Sometimes we overlook that. The difference and the effect on our careers and the effect on our businesses. But it's very important, as my special guest, Vicky Townsend, will share with us today. Vicky has founded a company called Divorce Right that helps companies actually deal with the effects of their employees and divorce. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about it, but I want to say hi, Vicky. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Beverly, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I'm so grateful that you've given me this time and this wonderful platform.
I'd like to encourage every woman out there that owns a business of multiple employees and that may be getting divorced, and also any woman that works for another company, to maybe take this information to their employer, to send them the link to the podcast, because I think it's a real interesting topic that a lot of people overlook. So Vicky, tell me a little bit more, and tell our audience a little bit more about what you do, what Divorce Right is, how you help.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I've been in the industry now for over a decade, and my mission has always been to make the divorce process an easier, a kinder and gentler process on families everywhere. And I did that because it was so horrific on me and I'm a pretty smart girl, and I had been through it before, sadly. And even with that, quote unquote experience, I still screwed it up. I still made bad decisions. And like I said, I feel like I'm a pretty smart girl. And then I realized that really the system is just rigged against us. It is a labyrinthine system by design, and that you can spend your life savings trying to get through. And I wanted to make it a better experience. And so I founded a company, the National Association of Divorce Professionals. And through the course of that company that I left a year and a half ago, through that company, I just kept seeing all these statistics about not only does it impact your emotional and your personal financial situation, but it really impacts how you show up at work. And it can be devastating, not only to you as the person going through it, but to your company, because we all lost productivity. We lose productivity when we're going through this process. And that's what I am determined to turn around, because that lack of productivity is is so important to women as we go through this so that you can maintain your employment status, right? Lose your job over this is
Exactly.
just another trauma, right? So our
Yep.
goal is
That's the
to
last thing you
provide,
want to worry about.
right, exactly. And it is one of those things where we knew that when we could partner with the company they work with to help provide them with information, with some coaching, and help them to make better decisions, that we can have a better result, not only for that person, but for the company they work for, and ultimately for this country. Because divorce costs this country over 300 billion with a B dollars a year in lost productivity. It's a scary,
Wow.
scary number. It is. It is.
That is unbelievable. But I
It
can
is.
see it because, and unfortunately, I was one of those women that have had multiple divorces. And
Right.
I think just about the emotional component, but then I add in the single mom component, and all of a sudden I have to handle all that. And
Right.
then kind of the overwhelm and stress. And wow, does that have
Hmm.
an impact
And
on that?
if I could tell
I
you one of
saw
the
some,
things, I'm sorry, one of the things that you were just talking
no,
about
you
with,
go ahead.
women and single mothers, and I don't want us to get off track, but divorce is the number one reason for single mothers to fall into poverty,
Exactly, yes.
right?
Isn't it
That's a
terrible?
whole other podcast on the cost to government services and taxpayer services.
Right.
It's not always necessary. As a matter of fact, it can be curtailed just by making proper decisions. And we're just not in the right headspace to do that. That's why having a divorce coach by your side that you can bounce things off of, that can give you some guidance and direction, is just so important. They're so important. I wish I
Yeah,
had
I
known about
have.
divorce coaching.
I know, I know. So I wish I had too. I hear so many women talk about that may have been stay at home moms or just stay at home women that are petrified because after they divorce, they lose health care benefits.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
they are starting out for the first time having to get a job and they've never had it. So I
Hmm.
can easily understand your statistics on poverty. But and that's
Yeah,
just boy, that's a shame.
and bankruptcy is
Yes.
another. I believe it's eight. I think the statistics are that 18% of single mothers file for bankruptcy as a result of their
Oh
divorce.
my goodness.
It's
Wow.
unbelievable. The statistics on this are so scary, and so for those employers that not only want to have a better bottom line, and we can talk about that because it does impact their bottom
Hmm.
line. And some of these bigger companies, these companies with 100,000 employees can lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year in lost productivity. It's crazy what this can do.
And I think it would be particularly challenging for a CEO or a senior management team that are married and not divorced to truly appreciate the phenomena of how divorce. Do you find that at all?
I if they've been through it. Now remember, divorce is the majority of divorces happen between the ages of 35 and 54. That's the and
Right.
this is the wrong word to use, but that's the sweet spot for divorce. Those are your upper level management, your C-suite executives, your E-suite executives, your highly compensated employees. And it's also those people that are your up and comers, right? The ones that you're really working to nurture into, up that
Right.
ladder. And divorce can really mess that up for them. And lastly, 10% of divorcing employees quit. They leave the
Oh,
company. Yeah, I'll tell you real quickly. There's three main reasons that they leave, and anybody that's an employer, so that you can understand that these are the reasons that they quit. The first one is they felt completely unsupported and uncared for during their process of divorce. And that is a big one. You've heard that. Don't bring your divorce here. Don't leave that crap at home. Well, you know what? Divorce is a Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. business. It just
Absolutely.
is. So if that's your company's hours, that's also the time that your employees that are going through it have to miss work, have calls, if they're distracted. It's all in that time frame. That's when all of
Gotcha.
the stuff is happening, and there's nothing they can do about that. So it's
Hmm.
one of those things that you know, the more messy the divorce, the more hours away from the workforce, which is why we at Divorce Right want to keep things as clean as possible, as quiet as possible, so that we can provide a focused and productive employee, right? When they don't have to
And
worry, right? It just,
you think about
divorce
all
is
the training.
right.
Go
Divorce
ahead.
is
I'm sorry. I keep
uncertainty.
interrupting you. I
That's okay.
apologize.
Well, we're doing our conversation, but divorce is uncertainty.
It's so
It
fascinating.
it right. Divorce is uncertainty, right? If what we do at Divorce Right is we help them create a plan that works for their family. It may not work for your family, it may not work for mine, but I'll be darned if it doesn't work for them. And there are 5 ways to divorce in this country. But the brand of our industry is you better lawyer up. You got to find a shark.
Yeah.
You got to find that bulldog, right? Only
Well, a lot
3%
of
of
people think that's
divorces.
the only way. They don't know
Right.
about the
That's
others.
exactly, because that's the brand. That's the brand of the business. But it's not the best way all the time. Only 3% of divorces go to a full trial. So you can
Right.
do it with mediation. You can do it with arbitration. You can DIY it. I have personally been involved with a case that was over $100 million in assets, and they decided to DIY it with $100 million estate, because they knew that they were
Yeah.
going to be giving their children's future to somebody else. They wanted to be in
Right.
control of their future. And so they divvied up, and they did it in an honorable way. It wasn't, he didn't take all of the assets, he didn't hide all of that stuff. Everything was just above board, and they trusted each other, and they really cared about each other. They just had grown apart. They were not a good fit at that
Right.
time in their lives. So they DIY'd it. Instead of giving, $1 million to the court system, they decided that that was better off in their pockets and in the pockets of
Yeah.
their children.
Are you in the middle of or struggling with life after divorce? Do you ever find yourself feeling angry, overwhelmed, lonely, or sad? It's completely normal to experience a range of emotion, but here's the good news. You are not alone, and help is available. Hi, I'm Beverly Price, host of the Her Empowered Divorce podcast. As a certified divorce and empowerment coach with over 25 years of experience, I help women navigate divorce, feel supported, and build more fulfilling life afterwards. Every week, I feature industry-leading guests who share their expertise and provide practical tips. I offer valuable insights and empowering strategies that will help you regain your confidence and create the life you deserve, just like I did in my divorce. I also address the roller coaster of emotions that often accompany this journey. So join me every Monday as we release a new episode of the Her Empowered Divorce podcast. Tune in for the help you need to make informed decisions, find the right support, and embrace the possibilities that lie ahead. Subscribe today and never miss an episode. I think that's so true, and I think some of the more hostile divorces, the person initiating a lot of the hostility might be saying, oh, I want to stick it to them, or I don't want them
Mm-hmm.
to get any money, or whatever. And I don't think they realize that the longer they do that, the less money that's going to be left for them.
Well, can I tell you something else that it costs that nobody thinks
Sure.
about, including that when
Okay.
it gets really, first of all, I believe that when you lawyer up and when you get that bulldog, that immediately sets the tone and the communication between you and your
Yes.
spouse is done. Okay. Um, but here's some other costs that we need to consider as we go down the path of a high conflict divorce.
Hmm.
What the impact is on women physically. Ladies, if you're listening to this, as a result of your divorce, you have a 20% greater chance of breast cancer and advanced stage uterine cancer. So do not ever miss your OBGYN appointment. Don't. Period. Men,
Hmm.
they it's interesting, it tends to be like our sexual organs if you think about that, but with men it's very different. They have a higher rate of acute myocardial infarction, so heart related heart attacks, and cancers. They risk an increase in lung cancer, bladder cancer, pancreatic cancer, colorectal cancer, and they have a 27% increase in suicide. So divorce is not just costing you
Ooh.
money, it can cost you your life. And the higher conflict you make this, the worse those statistics are going to be for you and for your spouse. Now, let's talk about children. The same thing, the higher the conflict, ladies, I know we all care about our kids. The higher the conflict, the higher the rate of suicide attempts by your children. If that
Oh,
is not enough to get you guys to the negotiation table and sit down with a mediator like Beverly or like any of the other ones that are out there that want to keep you away from that, that's the way to go. Do it in a kind and
yeah.
gentler way. Even the collaborative process, it is unnecessary to go through some really major health crises to get a divorce if you can avoid it. And I know it's not always the case, but let me tell you how to handle it with a narcissist, because they're the ones that have that higher conflict and they don't care. Some of that stuff they don't care about, but what they do care about is two things. They care about their own health. So if you told a man that's a narcissist, the more conflict you're going to have, you tell them they're going to have pancreatic cancer, right? Or lung cancer. They're going to go, wait a minute, me? No, I'm not going to do that. Also tell them that their child has greater chances of risk of suicide, that makes them look worse as a parent. Then maybe they'll start to entertain a different way to get through this process. When they understand what's at stake and
Fascinating.
it's them personally, it's not her,
Hmm.
it's me, it's a totally different conversation, right? So there are
Yeah.
other costs. Oh, and then we can go into the bankruptcy like I was talking about financially. Men have a
Right.
higher bankruptcy rate. They experience bankruptcy less than women, but it's not that much less than women, but it's their increased rate of bankruptcy.
Sure.
So their physical health, their financial health, and then their mental health. Like the risk of depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, and like I said, suicide is a real, real risk here. And the more and higher the conflict, the worse it is for all parties. So
Wow.
let's just use that, right? If that's not
Yeah.
enough
Get it
to
on the
get
table.
somebody right, that's why when I was in this process doing mediation, I always had them bring pictures of their children in frames. I wanted them to bring the
Mm.
stuff that was hanging on the walls or on their dresser, because those are good, happy memories, right? That's a great picture of your kids,
Yes.
right? So they can always remember their
That's a
children.
great technique. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a
Hmm.
great technique.
I can be
I
kind of a
think,
jerk about it though, because I always used to start it out with, what's in it for you? The more the conflict, the greater
yeah.
your chances of dying of cancer. So can we start there? Okay. So are we all on the same page that we're going to do this in a kinder, gentler manner? Yes. Okay. Let's move on. But ultimately,
Amazing.
I want to
I
save them
think
time. I want to save them money. I want to save them their health, their mental health, and then I want to save them their children's health too.
absolutely, I do too. I think the most important conversation you can have to prevent hostility is the initial conversation of, I want a divorce. Because the way that conversation is handled sets the tone for the
Yes, it does.
entire process and for your co parenting. So if
Right.
you come out hostile, or if you come out threatening, or if you come out demeaning, that immediately puts somebody's back up and they're into fight mode. So I work a lot with clients at that very beginning. Let's plan, role play, discuss that first conversation and
Yeah, that's a tough
how
one
it
too.
can be done in a way. Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. Um, we talk a little bit about the productivity in the workplace and the horrendous impact. What all do you think contributes to that? What causes that lack of productivity?
Well, there's five major things that cause that. The first is absences, right? And those absences can come not only just in court hearings, but appointments with your attorneys and your financial advisors, showing your house, to for sale or
Mm-hmm.
for an estimate or whatever. But it also comes in errors and just errors at work, right? Distractions, the phone calls, right? Your
Yes.
lawyer's on the phone, right? Um, or your ex is on the phone, right? All of those kinds of distractions. Remember again that divorce is a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, um, and so there's something called presenteeism, which is you're
Mm-hmm.
at your desk, you're there, but you're there really. You're not.
You're
You're
not
there
present.
physically,
Gotcha.
but you're not engaged mentally. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last one is something that is a real killer for companies is that 10% of divorcing employees quit in the first year.
Mm.
And I told you
And why
about,
do you think
why
that
they quit,
is?
but they quit. I think they quit. I,
Why
I
do you
think
think
I
they
meant
do?
so they quit for three main reasons. The first one is they felt completely unsupported. So
That's
if
right.
anybody's
Okay.
listening to this, right? If anybody's listening to this, support them, get them the resources they need. Contact Beverly, contact me, however you need to do that. But get them support and resources. That and the sooner the better, right? And we even teach
Right.
some of the how to recognize it, how to talk to your employees about this. We even go through, we'll go through your policy and procedures manual with you to make sure that this is something that's included in there. The second reason people quit is they can't find affordable housing close to work. That is
Mm.
why we recommend working with what's called a certified divorce lending professional, CDLP. Jody Bruns, I want to give you a shout out for the Divorce Lending Association. Those people, on average, can, if they work with the family law attorney on crafting that settlement statement, can get their employees about a 20% more buying power. That's not nothing. So that's number two. And number three, and this is for all of you women out there, is affordable childcare, right?
Yes.
If
Huge.
employers offer their employees either a stipend towards childcare or considering opening a childcare um, in their building, that would lessen the resignation. So number one, have a supportive um, resource, have somebody to talk to, send them to somebody like Beverly, somebody like Divorce Right. Second is make sure that they work with a CDLP to craft that settlement statement, because divorce attorneys know one thing: they know divorce, they know the law of divorce, but they don't know how to write a mortgage, right? They don't know anything about what an underwriter needs to see, but a CDLP does. And I have seen this a million different times where not a million. I'm exaggerating for effect, but a lot I've seen where a poorly crafted settlement statement has made it so that either one or both of the party cannot qualify for a mortgage. We don't want
Exactly.
that. So get those experts
Right.
involved. It's really important to have that team. And then, the third thing is that having some affordable childcare, because that's what happens. We go back and live with mom, right? If we can't
Hmm.
find affordable childcare here in Indiana, we're moving back to Ohio with mom, right? So
Right.
employers know that those are the top three reasons that employees quit. And it's pretty much it's an easy fix, right? It's not necessarily, it's not easy, but it can reduce that resignation time for sure.
Absolutely. And I thought of another one. God forbid both parties work for the same company.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a hard one. It is.
Yeah,
That's
wouldn't that
why
be
that's
hard?
actually why a lot of companies don't do that.
Don't allow that. Yeah.
That's, I guess, a company policy. It's definitely tough. We were working with a company about a year ago. It's a very well-known company. You all would know their name. And in one case, they asked one of those parties to leave. They did.
I
And
can
in this case,
certainly
yeah,
understand that.
yeah,
The
yeah, it was
other
not comfortable.
situation, the other situation I remember from one of my divorces was I worked in a work group where they were all married. And when I divorced, I felt such shame and guilt
Mhm.
and being judged by them. And I guess that goes into your non supportive category. But
Well,
that
it's not
really
only
affected
right.
me.
It's not just non-supportive. It's also the reason that employees will not go to their employer and tell them that they're going through a divorce. Less than 10% of employees go to their HR department about this process because of the shame,
Wow.
because of the embarrassment, because it's not your business. When employers
Mhm.
start to realize, and I'd love to go into, if you don't mind, just for a second, the average employee loses 40% of their productivity for 3 to 5 years on
Oh
average.
my goodness.
Right. So if you're your typical $58,000 a year employee, which is the average salary here in the United States, and we just assume that your productivity level has to be the same as what you make and no more, right? You're not
Right.
responsible for anything other than paying for yourself. And they lose 40% of their productivity. That's over $23,000 a year in lost productivity.
Wow.
That's a lot of money. 23 grand
Yeah.
per average
Yeah. A
employee.
CEO wouldn't
There's
like that.
Yeah, next week, a week from today, on our LinkedIn Live, I don't know when this is going to come out, but July 13th, we have a gentleman that wrote an academic study for his PhD on the impact of employers and companies when the CEO goes through a divorce. It is
Oh
shocking. Ladies and
gosh.
gentlemen, the average CEO gets a raise in pay by $150,000 a year and an increase in company benefits by 2 million a year. And that was with
Wow.
this
And
the S&P 500.
I also saw some troubling statistics about women's promotion after divorce, and
Mm.
promotions to the CEO role after divorce are much less than men who have divorced.
Well,
I
there's
don't know if
much
you've
less
seen
women
that.
in the C-suite. It's sad to say.
Well, that's true
Hopefully,
too. Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah,
just so messed up,
absolutely.
isn't it? Because we could just
We've,
kill it. We could
I
kill
know we
that.
could go on and on. You have shared such incredible information, and I always like to ask my guests, what 3 takeaways would you offer to kind of sum up the learnings from what we've talked about so far?
Well, number one, that's always the most important to me is that thing that we talked about with your physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the higher the conflict, right? The more you
Right.
escalate that, calling him a bastard, calling that, blah, blah, all of that costs you your health. It
Yes.
just does. If anybody would like the articles and the academic studies I have behind that, I'm happy, happy, happy to share it with you. So please try and
Okay.
avoid conflict. Not only is it bad for you, it's bad for your children. So let's try and, if we can go into this, I would love to rebrand divorce instead of that,
Yes.
let's lawyer up to we've outgrown our situation. It was not a good fit. And I'm sorry
Mm-hmm.
about that. Not
More
your, blah, blah,
amicable.
blah.
Yeah.
All right. And find what for me, and I know that that's my business now, right? Find a
Mm-hmm.
divorce coach. Get a divorce coach. They will save you far more money. I promise you, they will keep you out of the muck and mire of that, right? They will help you
Yeah.
with strategies on communication. They'll help you with strategies on child custody and all of that, those other really great things when you're not thinking correctly. One of the things that I would love for your audience to understand is, and I don't know if you experienced it, Beverly, but I hear this so many times that I was in a fog during my divorce for about 2 years. Did you feel that way? That fog, ladies and
Yes. And
gentlemen,
also overwhelm.
right,
Fog and
overall,
overwhelm.
that
Yeah.
is cortisol flooding your brain. It gets into the nooks and crannies of your brain and it makes it so that you can, and it's mostly in your prefrontal cortex where all of your good decision making is, and it coats your brain. It gets into all of those nooks and crannies, and you just can't make a good decision. So just
Wow.
know that that's that fog you hear everybody talking about. That's the fog. The fog is cortisol.
Wow.
And the best way to get rid of cortisol on your brain is yoga and meditation. Do that every day.
Wow.
Get rid of that stuff. It is not good for your health. It is not good for your thinking skills. And that's why you need somebody that's an outside force, right? That can sit there and tell it to you like it is, what reality is, not what you think it is, because you're just not able to process that thoroughly when
Mm-hmm.
you're under incredible stress. And divorce is nothing but stress. So just know that there's help out there. There are people that you can bring into your case that will make your case go better. I promise you,
Wow.
they are out there. Beverly is certainly one of them. And I would just highly recommend, I wish I knew about this when I was going through it, which is why now I feel like I'm the biggest champion of it because it would have saved me about $17,000. That's just for on
Wow.
my side. So,
Yeah.
and in the scheme of things, some of your listeners, that may not be a hell of a lot of money. But to me, it was a car for
Mm-hmm.
my kids, right? It was a lot of
Yeah.
vacations for us to take together. It was experiences for us to have together. But instead, I made poor decisions to get out of pain, right? Give him everything, right? To get out of pain.
Yep.
And that's a conversation to
Absolutely.
have when you're, right? That's a conversation to have when you're 25, but to have it when you're 50, it's another conversation. It's a different conversation.
Big difference.
So
Yeah.
hire somebody that knows the industry, that can help you avoid the landmines, that can help you and give you a better communication strategy so that you can keep out of that conflict and commit to saving your physical health and your children's mental health by doing this in a less conflictive manner.
And I would add to that when looking for a divorce coach to make sure that you get a certified divorce coach, someone that has been through training, because there
Yes.
are a lot of divorce coaches that have hung up a shingle just because they got divorced themselves. And you
Oh,
really
goodness,
need
yes.
somebody that's trained in a number of situations. Yeah.
And also out of their
Just,
own divorce story, right? That's
oh,
really
yeah.
important. They need to be out of their own divorce story because a lot of them are still trying to, in not a lot of them, not divorce coaches, but those that you're speaking of, they're still trying to deal with their own pain, right? Which is why a lot of people go into it.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I want to save somebody else, but they can't get past their own story to save others. And that's why it's really important to get somebody that's really experienced.
Vicky, thank you so much for everything. You have just been, it's been an honor to have you, and you've shared such great information that I know is going to help so many people.
Thank you so much, Beverly. It was such a pleasure to be on here with you. Thank you for giving us this platform. Thank you for being a voice for women that are going through this. And everybody that's out there that's listening, just know that there is someone there is a specialty in this industry that are here
Yes.
to help you get through it in a kinder and gentler way. And you need that. I promise you, you'll sit there and go back and you'll go, I'm so glad I had that relate. So glad.
Well, to my audience, thank you so much for being with Vicky and me today. All of Vicky's information and all of my information will be available in the show notes. So you can contact Vicky to learn more about divorce rights and to talk to her about the sources of some of her research if you're interested in that. Please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can go to my website and listen to the various episodes and like and subscribe these episodes, because it will help us reach so many more women that need our help. And I hope that your divorce is as absolutely as smooth as possible. Thank you and take care. Thank you for listening to the Her Empowered Divorce podcast. Remember, divorce doesn't have to be a death sentence. With the right support and guidance, you can move through the process with knowledge, skills, and confidence. And it can also be a time of growth and empowerment. A divorce and empowerment coach is an invaluable member of your divorce team. I help you understand and navigate the process, come to terms with your emotions, avoid costly mistakes, find your true voice, and create an empowered life post-divorce. If you're interested in learning more, schedule a free consultation at herempowereddivorce.com. And be sure to check out my other episodes of Her Empowered Divorce podcast and resources on my website or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. This will help me reach out to more women in the same space so you are not so alone. I appreciate your support. Until next time, take care and stay empowered.